Chapter 22. Bhagavan as a classical Sanskrit poet. Devotees of Sri Bhagavan are aware only of his famous Upadesa Saram and a few isolated verses as his contributions to the language of the gods. So it is necessary to place on record his contribution to the famous Uma Sahasram, the 1,000 verses on Uma, the Divine Mother, sung by his great disciple, Ganapati Muni. This story shows the Maharshi as the joint author of this composition. Sri Bhagavan was then living in the Pancha-Amam temple, the abode of Varangathambal, on the northeastern slopes of Sri Arunachalam. In those days, the Maharshi would sit and sleep in a hammock slung between 2 stone pillars and be rocked as a darling child by his loving pupils. Sri Ganapati Muni had composed 700 stanzas on Uma in some 30 different meters, and had announced to his devotees in various parts of the country that this poem would be dedicated on a certain Friday in the shrine of Sri Uma in the great temple of Sri Arunachalaswara. Over 100 persons gathered at the Pancha-Amam temple so as to be present on the occasion. Now, these Sanskrit verses were not a mere intellectual display by the Muni, great as he was in Sanskrit composition. Proof of his great intellectual capacity may be had from the very fact that in the presence of the heads of the Udipi months, he composed extemporary in a single hour the 100 verses of the Gathai Sataka, giving the cream of the teaching of the 3 main books of Hindu philosophy. The Muni's Uma Sarasam is different from other compositions in that it is a Pasyanti Vak, revealed by the Divine Mother in her own words, to one who is adept in the Kundalini Yoga. At about 8 p.m. on the evening before the dedication day, after supper, Sri Maharshi asked Ganapati Muni whether the dedication would have to be postponed to some other Friday, as 300 verses were still to be composed to complete the 1,000. But the Muni assured Bhagavan that he would complete the poem immediately. The scene that followed can hardly be believed by one who did not actually witness it. Sri Maharshi sat silent and in deep meditation, like the silent Lord Dakshinamurti. The eager disciples watched in tense admiration the sweet flow of divine music in Sanskrit verse as it came from the lips of the great and magnetic personality of Sri Ganapati Muni. He stood there delivering the verses in an unbroken stream while disciples eagerly gathered the words and wrote them down. Oh, for the ecstasy of it all. Life is indeed blessed if only to experience those divine moments. The Sahasram was finished in several meters, and for a while the disciples present enjoyed the deep ecstasy of the silence pervading the atmosphere, as Sri Ganapati Muni concluded with the normal type of colophon. Then Sri Bhagavan opened his eyes and asked, "Nayana, has all that I said been taken down?" From Sri Ganapati Muni came the ready and grateful response, "Bhagavan, all that Bhagavan inspired in me has been taken down." It is thus clear that Sri Bhagavan inspired the final 300 verses of the Uma Sarasam through the lips of Ganapati Muni without speaking a word, as usually understood, or rather in the silence characteristic of the silent sage of Arunachala. It is noteworthy that whereas Sri Ganapati Muni revised the first 700 verses of this monumental work some 6 times, he did not revise any of the last 300. This being Sri Bhagavan's own utterance, there was no need to polish them. These 300 verses are to be considered as Sri Bhagavan's unique contribution to Sanskrit poetry.